All right, good evening, everybody. Before I get into the logistics and some brief announcements, I wanted to give a big round of applause for our cohort. They're mostly over here, but we have 10 outstanding teams this evening. Just wanted to give them, before we even get into anything, a big round of applause. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's really amazing to have all of our teams here. A lot of them have brought their friends, their significant others, classmates, other family members. So it's wonderful to have a full room. I know this is a busy time of the year with all of the upcoming holidays. So really just it means a lot to have all of you here and supporting one another and supporting the students that have worked very hard all semester to further their venture and continue to achieve success. My name is Paul Davidson, and I'm the Assistant Director of Student Ventures here at Fast Forward U. I've had the privilege of working with all 10 of these teams throughout the semester, and they've made a ton of progress, and I know they're going to continue to succeed in coming months, years, and uh, really, hopefully, decades ahead. Before I get into some other things, just a couple quick announcements. The restrooms are just outside of the door and to the right. If you need to step out, please do so. If you all could make sure that your cell phones are silenced or turned off, we don't want a phone ringing during presentation. Each team only has 6 minutes, so we want to make sure there's as few interruptions as possible. Um, and that's really it for these announcements. You all should have gotten a ballot, and yeah, just thank you for being here on time. We have 10 teams. They each have 6 minutes and then 5 minutes for Q&A. So it'll be a tight agenda. So we do understand if you need to check, if you need to step out or take a phone call. There are two little phone booths, like directly where I'm pointing to the, I guess to your left, but to your right if you're facing that way. And then there is some food left over. So in between at certain times would be a time to refill your drink or get some more food if you would like. Um, so Fuel, it's a semester-long upper-level accelerator, and it's designed to help committed student ventures scale up. This is an extremely competitive program. This past fall, we had over 40 teams apply, and we were only able to accept 10 teams. So these, all of them indicated to us through their application and interview that they're serious about their venture, and they're committed to making progress and learning from one another through mentorship, through different speakers that we brought, and also the plethora of resources that we have through Fast Forward U and Johns Hopkins Tech Ventures. We have an amazing Fast Forward U team, so I just want everyone to raise their hand that's part of this team. So kind of sprinkled across the room, and then I also wanted to highlight and thank the Johns Hopkins Tech Ventures team. We have a lot of folks I see around the room, but wanted to give a special shout out to Myra Norton. She is the new senior director of Fast Forward, and then Christy Weiskill leads all of JHTV, and it's been a tremendous success since beginning. We're pretty new by academia standards, only about 10 years old for JHTV, and then Fast Forward U is not even 5 years old. But as you can see, we've grown quickly. We have over 100 individuals in the audience today, and dozens more have signed in on Zoom. So uh, really growing very, very quickly. This past semester, we've had 3 outstanding strategic advisors. I want them all to raise their hands as well, but Shreen, Joseph, and Fayez. Can we give them a round of applause? So each week, the 3 of them, they meet, they have, of the 10 teams, they have 3 or 4 teams that they meet with weekly, giving feedback, helping them prepare for today, connecting them to individuals within their own network. This program really could not run without everything that they do. They've spent hours working with them. And they even helped serve on some of on the interview committee and bring a tremendous background of in all different areas. So like my background is not in the same areas as them, so I think we all complement each other very nicely, and just really appreciative of everything that they've done throughout the semester. During the semester, we've had this is just a handful of the speakers that we've had. Each week on Wednesday nights, 1 hour of the session is devoted to bringing in a founder or someone who is an alum of Johns Hopkins or somehow connected to the entrepreneurship community. A few of the individuals on here in this room, I've kind of seen them out and about. So thank you all for joining us. But all of these folks have shared their entrepreneurship journeys. They've given advice, given feedback, and really strengthened all of the teams that are presenting here today. But next, I wanted to hand over the mic to my colleague and director of Fast Forward U, Josh Ambrose, and he's going to share some remarks.
Thanks, Paul. And Paul has done just an incredible job leading the cohort this semester, so we're just so grateful for his leadership. I want to take a moment, and tonight is all about celebration. The celebration of the staff, the celebration of the teams, the celebration of the community. And we're so thrilled that you're here with us this evening. Paul, did you want to go back to these later? Or I can go over them real quick. So all of our awards are sponsored by generous philanthropic support from the community, and we're just incredibly grateful for that. And I think most folks know here, but every team here has already won $5,000. They've all gotten generous financial support. And this evening, we're giving out an additional $20,000 thanks to the support of the community. That includes a $3,000 cohort prize. This is third place. And I should note here, all of our awards do not stack. They're spread out. But the cohort has chosen, they've kind of given each other all votes. And tonight, they will choose one of their teams to give that third place prize to. You, the audience, are going to pick our second place prize, which is why you got those sheets when you came in. So I invite you to take notes, to listen to what you like, and you're going to vote for your two top teams, and that will help us pick the second place choice. And then our judges, who we'll meet in just a moment back here, are picking our grand prize. And that's $12,000, which is really cool. And for those that don't know, our money is non-dilutive, meaning we don't take ownership in these companies. These are grants to help them take the next steps forward with their venture. So that's a lot of money on the line. Can we give it a round of applause? That's pretty cool. So it is my very real honor tonight to tell you a little bit about a friend of ours. And this is a really important person to me and to the rest of the team. And many of you know that we lost our friend this semester, one of our strongest collaborators and the foundation to so much of the work that we do. Pava Marie Lepere was my personal introduction to Hopkins. She was the very first Hopkins student that I met, and she set the bar very, very high, to say the least. She's felt throughout the programming that we do here at Fast Forward U. Especially, she had a real seminal role with our Spark entry-level accelerator that she co-created with Kevin Carter, who's also in the audience. And Kevin, you want to give a little wave there? Amazing work. Let's give him a round of applause. It is not an exaggeration to say that every single student that we interact with here at Fast Forward U has felt the influence of Pava. Last year, we interacted with over 250 different teams from all over campus, and over 100 of them went through our accelerators. We're on track to beat that this year, and so they have all directly benefited from the curriculum that she wrote. She also was a thought partner on all of our other programming, including this Fuel upper level accelerator that she met with at the very beginning of this cohort experience. A frequent visitor and a generous mentor, she made a huge impression, not just on this cohort, but everybody that she met. I was just talking to a student in California, and she was like, oh, I just felt like Pava was my best friend, that we were going to have, all these meetings together, and, I'm missing her. And I was like, I didn't even know you had met. I am finding hundreds and hundreds of people all the time that met her and felt that connection immediately, that she was their friend and that she was an advocate on their behalf. As a student entrepreneur, and then as a recent grad, she won multiple awards from us along the way. She was there at the very beginning, including starting her own student entrepreneurship club here on campus, TCO Labs. And as a student entrepreneur, she ended up winning our largest student prize at the time, the Bishotti Student Award. Today, her company has over 30 employees here in Baltimore, has raised millions in venture funding, and does business all over the world. Pava was a friend to so many in this room, including myself. She embodied the words on our wall better than anyone I can think of, to take risks and move forward. We are so honored to build on what she started. And for more on that, we invite you to join us this Saturday at our campus memorial to celebrate her life. The QR code is up there on the screen if you wish to join us. We're incredibly honored this evening to have Pava's family with us here in the audience. And I would like you to join me in thanking them for all that we do, for the amazing work of their daughter, all the ways that they have invested in us through their daughter, all the ways that they continue to want to support the community. And Pava is not someone, we heard this many times over the last few weeks, she wouldn't enjoy a moment of silence. That wasn't her vibe, that wasn't her jam. So I wonder if you could just join me in standing and thanking the LePere family for being here and for all that your daughter did for us. Amazing. Woo! Tonight, we continue to invite everyone here to think about what would Pava do, including our judges, which is a difficult role to have to play. So in this same vein of gratitude and intentional support, I'm really honored to introduce our 4 accomplished judges to you this evening. First up is Brian Stansky, who comes from decades of investment experience in telecom and life sciences. The former director of all things incubation here at Hopkins. He employed Pava right after graduation and empowered her to help build that Spark curriculum and be one of the very first employees. Brian, thank you for joining us this evening. Let's give him a round of applause. Margaret Rothfalzen is a leader in our ecosystem, a strong partner here in Baltimore, and the COO of Squadra Ventures. Again, incredibly trusted friend and thought partner, and she was an incredible collaborator with Pava's early ventures. Margaret, so honored to have you here. Thank you for being here. Tom Jacklish is an accomplished tech startup founder and an extremely faithful mentor to our program. It's kind of the theme of this evening. We have a lot of friends here in the room with us today. He's been with us since the very early days of Fast Forward U. He traveled down from New York City to be with us here in Baltimore this evening. Tom, thank you so much for being here. And last, but certainly not least, Bailey Surtees is one of our original student founders with her startup Cubanda, which is doing amazing things. If there's any investors in the room, you got to talk to her. She's doing awesome stuff. A close friend of Pava's, she has served as a Baltimore mentor and ecosystem advocate, and again, has met with our teams regularly. So again, Bailey, thank you so much for being here. We're so honored to have you. All right, I'm going to turn us back over to Paul, and we're just a slide or two away from hearing from these awesome teams. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Josh. And again, thank you all for being here, and just really excited that all of you are here to support one another and support Pava's family. And we're thrilled to hopefully create a strong legacy that she would be proud of. Tonight is a celebratory occasion, though. These teams have worked extremely hard throughout the semester, and I think Pava would be proud of them as they were able to connect with her as our first speaker of the semester, along with Kevin in that room right back there. So again, thank you. But now we're getting into the fun part and what all of you are here for. So tonight, as I mentioned, we have 10 teams. Each will have 6 minutes, so really short pitch, 5 minutes of Q&A from the judges, and then we'll do the awards. But without further ado, just to cut to the chase, I wanted to welcome up Daniel of Cognitively. He is our first pitch of the night. So
thank you so much. Perfect. I'll just stay behind. Okay. Yeah, before I begin, thank you so much, Paul, Josh, the Fast Forward team, for really making this event possible. My name is Daniel Fleury. I'm the founder of Cognitively and a current senior at Hopkins studying computational cognition. At Cognitively, we are engineering first ever multi-agent language models on the cloud that are empowering mental health practitioners to focus less on busy work with documentation and insurance compliance and focus more on patient care interactions. And to begin, I want to introduce you to Michael. He's a trauma therapist about to begin a 45-minute appointment with a couple. Now, the average session for Michael has a lot of language data. And for this appointment, in only 2 minutes, symptoms of family trauma, depression, anxiety and adjustment disorders emerge, and eventually the appointment ends, and he only has 13 minutes to write an insurance-compliant note that will impact reimbursements, billing, and all of the treatment outcomes to follow. Multiply this over 35 patients per week, and he's spending 13 hours of his work week on notes and documentation. And the thing is, it's not only Michael. It's over 500,000 clinicians actively serving 42 million patients, amounting to over $240 billion in admin costs due directly to burnout and all of the collateral effects on public health and social health. The question is, how do we help Michael and the patients in this process? This is where Cognitively steps in. Imagine an AI-driven cloud software on mobile and web that is able to extract high-level insights from patient notes, patient conversations with their provider, and generate clinical hypotheses and personalized treatment plans in real time. That's Cognitively. And to show you a perspective from the clinician adding a patient and performing AI inference, I'm going to show you a demo right here. Let's see if the audio works. Otherwise, I will voice over it. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we are deploying this platform in a $4.6 billion behavioral health market that's been growing 20% year over year. We've already segmented this into community clinic and private practice payers that are willing to pay and marked at over $2.8 billion in the market. And if we can obtain just 10% of this market within the next 10 years, we have over $250 million in value. Based on our current early adoption rates right now, we project over $2.5 million in early evangelists, assuming just 1% of this obtainable market is found. Now, we are navigating this landscape competitively. As it stands, we are the only competitor right now that has advanced multimodal language modeling capabilities and the mental health specific features to match those capabilities. You'll see along this feature matrix from smaller players like Upheal that are pre-seed to large giants like Blueprint. They're really only doing inference on static notes and one appointment at a time. Cognitively is the only player that's longitudinally analyzing how sessions evolve over time to coordinate patient care. And even when competitors indicated by the half circles are accomplishing those features, they're using inflexible AI models and not flexible unsupervised AI frameworks like Cognitively is doing. Now, our acquisition strategy is to onboard customers into a 30-day free trial with some limited access to the software, and then a light B2B model for private practices on under 10 clinicians at $40 per user per month. And then finally, our main B2B model for community practices of over 10 clinicians, annually priced at $30 per month per user, plus a $4,500 installation fee. Now, we've already signed 3 annual contracts with mid to large size group practices with an average deal size of $12,000 to $15,000, and we're following an iterative integration strategy. We are really scaling, testing on small batches of clinicians, gaining trust, ensuring this works at scale, and increasing our annual prices in the long term with these partners and getting these opinion leaders on board. Our progress to date has been really exciting. We've already achieved full HIPAA compliance with our platform, processed our entire post-beta feedback channels, integrated very advanced language learning capabilities into our algorithms. And we are preparing for our pre-seed round of $250,000, as well as starting our go-to market entry strategies. Our projected growth outcomes really align with this ambition. We project our MRR starting in November of 2025 to really take off as we acquire larger practices and larger health systems that have more clinicians per site. And finally, we have an executive team really supporting this endeavor across health systems in the Midwest, all the way back to Johns Hopkins here for our clinical officer and people from UMich on operations, really banding together to support this mission. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak.
All right, well, get right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about how you did your customer discovery process to make the decision that this is where you wanted to focus your time?
Yeah, definitely. So we started with actually private practitioners at the Johns Hopkins Counseling. I literally went door to door, just like understanding their problems. And then we realized like the documentation burden was lying especially on like larger health systems that experienced those problems at scale, like ones that relied on insurance coding and diagnostic coding, and that were experiencing a lot of insurance audits. So from there, we actually did like over 200 customer outreach surveys on like the insurance auditing process and realized like no solution really existed like this for them. So that's where we realized there was a huge opportunity there.
Two questions. One, can you describe what the market is like that you're going after? Is it a series of small providers of like 1 to 5, or are you going after large practices? What does the market look like to go after the customer base?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yeah, so we are targeting larger group practices. We want to have these annual B2B contracts with group practices of over 10 clinicians, at least per site. We obviously also have like more of a B2C focused model for sites of under 10 clinicians that might want like only one monthly subscription here or there. But yeah, we are primarily targeting group practices, and we want to pivot that to larger health systems that have hundreds of psychotherapists.
Okay, and
per site.
second question, you don't need to go to the slide, but the slide that had all the other players in there.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how big they are right now? How long have they been around? What's the customer base look like? What's been proven out in the market?
Yeah, so I'll start with the direct competitors. So there are other pre-seed competitors like Upheal, Mentalic, and AutoNotes. So, they're just closing their pre-seed funding rounds, and they are only functioning in like one vertical, which is mental health, which is what we're starting with as well. And so they have progressed a lot with like, just making progress notes and psychotherapy notes as using language modeling. Then there are like more indirect competitors like DeepScribe, Blueprints, which are much more generalist. Like they try, making these universal documentation features for different types of practitioners. For cognitively, we also want to become multimodal. So like the thing is, it's not just mental health, but our language modeling can apply, to social workers, case managers, general practice physicians. We've created all of the base models for that. So we're planning to like acquire that, like a large share of that market, as well as like other parallel markets that our indirect competitors are also covering. But yeah, it's a pretty early market, I think, with some early players.
The 3 signed deals that you were referring to earlier, you've rolled out to them in some way yet or no?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Have you rolled out at all to the 3 deals that you mentioned that you've signed so far?
Yes, yeah, we have rolled out, and the way we're integrating is like starting on small batches of like 5 clinicians, so like focus groups, and then sort of iteratively validating it because we want to ensure we don't like dissatisfy them and they back out of the deal. So yeah,
Cool.
that's how we're securing them.
And what's patient receptiveness been like to giving consent to having their sessions for what I
Yeah,
would imagine
yeah.
are some of their most private and sensitive?
Yeah. No, that's an excellent question. So patients have actually been really receptive so far. So one of our test sites in Toronto, Canada, we've created patient consent models that actually fully cover this entire pipeline of like audio recording. And the thing is, like therapists don't even have to audio record this. Like they can just jot down notes how they usually would in a very unstructured manner and use our software to do the same. So if like patients are not expressly consenting to just audio recording, they can use this raw text. We've created like out of the box consent forms for clinicians to use already, and many of their consent agreements that they already have cover a lot of this audio transcription and a lot of the audio recording as well.
And then what's your moat? What's stopping your competitors from adding the features that you have and they don't?
Yeah, I think what's stopping it is that we, again, I think like we're not just functioning in just one part. We're not just like a documentation company, right? We're trying to create multi-agent AI models that are automating every part of the care process, and we're moving really quickly with this. You can imagine like an autonomous AI agent that's able to conduct intake assessments, initial consultations, or agents that can help patients explore entire health systems. That's what we're sort of doing at stealth level and really not making it public facing. And we are hoping to get ahead of this step before our competitors do, which are just functioning in like very single verticals of purely documentation and not autonomous agents. So I think that's our roadmap. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel. And before I hand it over to Mitch and Shri, a couple quick things. I know some folks arrived just now. If there's an empty seat next to you and if someone who's standing would like to grab that seat, if you could just raise your hand so people could take a seat and not have to stand for the next couple hours. All right, thank you so much. And then I know a few other folks were arriving late. So if you need to use the restroom or anything throughout the evening, just to the exit and to the right. So please feel free to do that if necessary. But before I hand it off to Mitch and Shri, it's always hard going first. So I want to give one more round of applause to Daniel. Great job this evening. All right, but next on our agenda is Somnair. They have a few other members of their team, but tonight Mitch and Shri will be presenting. So want to get the mics over to them, make sure they're both on.
Sure, you may want to test that to make sure it works real quick. Okay, cool. Hello, I'm thrilled to announce to you a revolutionary new treatment for obstructive sleep apnea. At Somnair, we're developing the first non-invasive neurostimulation oral appliance to treat OSA, and we envision a world for our patients with no mask, no surgery, just a restful night's sleep. I'm Mitch Turley, CEO and co-founder of Somnair, and I'm joined by my brilliant co-founder and CTO, Shri Prabhashivaram, as well as our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Anders Sideris, who has joined us virtually. We are a diverse team with 12 years of industry experience in surgery, medical device innovation, and medical device regulation. And we're mentored by a world-leading group of clinicians who are pioneers in the neurostimulation field. 54 million Americans have obstructive sleep apnea, and there are over 1 billion patients worldwide. More than just simple snoring, it is a debilitating disease, more than doubling the risk of stroke, heart attack, and diabetes, and leading to debilitating daytime sleepiness. I have experienced the impact of obstructive sleep apnea firsthand, where my father fell asleep at the wheel and was in a major vehicle accident due to his untreated obstructive sleep apnea. Thankfully, he was okay. However, the cars were totaled. Many patients, however, have many more severe consequences than this. OSA costs the US economy $150 billion in value each year. And one form of this disease is currently very poorly treated. 30% of all obstructive sleep apnea patients have complete concentric collapse, and they're left without a source of options. CPAP, over 50% of patients fail CPAP, and those that do comply with it have experienced many device recalls over the last 2 years. However, surgery is no better. Over 70% of patients do not even attempt surgery due to its limitations. And while neurostimulation is transforming the field of obstructive sleep apnea, current devices on the market are highly invasive and are actually contraindicated for the patient population we're targeting.
Introducing Somnair, the first effective treatment for patients with no other option. Somnair is a novel, non-invasive neurostimulation oral appliance. It's similar to a dental retainer that patients wear every night. It opens the airway using a proprietary therapy delivery system. Neurostimulation has drastically transformed the sleep apnea treatment landscape. It's the first solution that treats the root cause of the disease, and its market share is expected to grow exponentially. However, current solutions have major limitations. They only target a minority of patients and are contraindicated for the population that we are targeting. They're highly invasive and expensive, creating a higher barrier for adoption. Somnair overcomes these limitations by being the first non-invasive, inexpensive solution that treats majority of sleep apnea patients, and it is designed with patient comfort in mind. Our technology is a proven technology. We conducted an in vivo animal study, and we are the first to prove the feasibility of non-invasive stimulation for the treatment of obstructive sleep apnea. And with our clinician partners here at Hopkins Hospital, we're conducting an in-clinic study, and it visibly showed opening of the airway in our dry runs. Our technology does not require highly expensive and risky airway assessment. Clinicians can fit, prescribe, and titrate the device in clinic, and Somnair will manufacture the device and support both patients and clinicians throughout this process. Based on a real-world data from a high-volume sleep clinic that Dr. Sedaris worked in, we generated an economic model of payer savings and clinician revenue. Both payers and providers are incentivized to prescribe Somnair, as it will improve both economic and clinical outcomes. Given Somnair's ability to treat all forms of upper airway collapse, our total addressable market is $9.7 billion, and we'll be targeting our beachhead market to 30% of patients who have no option. We'll start by targeting the key opinion leaders from the network that we've created at major academic centers all across the US, including Johns Hopkins, Penn Medicine, and Stanford Medicine. They will not only conduct our study, but be early adopters of our technology. And using comparable estimates of current highly invasive neurostimulation devices, we have projected early adoption and growth. However, our device is non-invasive and it treats the root cause of the disease. So we expect these to be higher than what we have shown here.
At Somnair, we're executing a clear path to market entry. Ours is an FDA Class 2 de novo device, and we have validated this regulatory strategy through consultation with Hogel and Wells, as well as directly with the FDA through an academic pre-sub meeting. Additionally, we confirmed that we are candidates for breakthrough status, which provide a much more streamlined path to market entry, as well as reimbursement during the first 3 years upon market entry. Our IP has been filed this summer and is 100% owned by Somnair. Today, we are raising non-dilutive funding in order to complete our in-clinic studies with our partners at Johns Hopkins Hospital. This will prove our device's efficacy as well as patient comfort. Then we will raise seed and Series A funding, which will enable us to reach technical design freeze and achieve market entry through FDA clearance. We have raised $200,000 to date. However, the $12,000 that Fuel is able to provide is integral to our product success, as it will enable us to continue generating evidence through our in-clinic studies here at Hopkins. And those data will provide us a competitive foothold in order to achieve further grant funding as well as dilutive funding in our future. I want to thank you for allowing me to share Somnair's mission for a world without untreated sleep apnea. We provide patients a restoration of dignity and vitality. At this time, I'd love to open the floor for any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm curious, with your studies that you have planned for the next year for efficacy, is this with a device that'll be doing the modulation? Is this with a proxy, or is it more about like the human factors and comfort?
Sure. So our initial human study that we're currently running is all about clinical efficacy. So it's using a device with an external pulse generator that provides the same neurostimulation parameters that will be in our final miniaturized version of our device. So it's still a mouth guard. It still has the electrode array in the placement that there will be, just has external wiring coming out to an off-the-shelf neurostimulator. The reason for this is that IRB required a clinically approved device in order to get it into patients quickly. Our second study will be an awake study testing patient comfort. And so this study will place the device in the patient's mouths. It will then stimulate and will find the comfort threshold at which they can tolerate the device, including sleeping with it at night. These two studies, the clinical efficacy study measuring airway opening and flow into the lungs, as well as the comfort study, will provide us a great groundwork for further funding and then miniaturizing our device.
I know you mentioned earlier that you already filed a patent for it and that you own the IP. How defensible is the IP? I think like the biggest risk is the very established mouth guard market already. So have you done any like research into how defensible it actually is?
Definitely. We've conducted an extensive prior art search to understand the current existing solutions in the market. And when it comes to neurostimulation, it's most of the devices are implantable. Although there are existing mouthguard devices, they don't have electronics in it, or they don't have the technology that we are presenting here. And in addition to that, we are also patenting the anatomical target that is unique to our technology. Because the newer simulation devices in market are targeting the tongue, which pushes the tongue forward. However, we are targeting a different anatomical target, and it is novel, and in addition to the design patent that we've done.
One more, are you done?
I think we've got room for more.
Can you talk about what the FDA would want to see for this? What, getting through regulatory approval? And then I have a second question after that.
Of course. So in order to achieve regulatory approval, there were a number of benchtop tests, including electrical compatibility, biocompatibility of the device, corrosion resistance, since it's being placed in the mouth. But they also wanted to see preliminary human data. And part of the reason for that was the fact that it is a first of its kind device, providing stimulation for a patient and physically open their airway while they're sleeping at night. And so they offered that the breakthrough pathway may be a good use or a good path for an early feasibility study clearance, followed by a possible pivotal trial at that point.
Okay, and then to take the device where it has a wire coming out of it to I'll call it self-contained device, what's needed? Is there any magic, or is it you need to know parameters and so forth to put into chips to go in? What needs to get done to get that final form factor?
Do you want to take it, or okay? So in order to achieve the final form factor, the main thing that's needed to know is the actual nerve stimulation parameters, which is where this animal study, as well as the initial human study, have been integral. We've been able to identify optimal nerve stimulation parameters, and then we can, and have already actually designed a preliminary PCB that will enable us to deliver those to a patient in a miniaturized version. And so we've identified the power requirements and know the battery size, as well as the current and voltage requirements and the waveform and frequency of it in order to deliver it throughout a night.
How did you all make the decision to come together to work on this as a team?
So we all came together through our master's program here at Hopkins University. So it's called the Center of Innovation and Engineering. And over there, we came together as a team to research and conducted 1,000 hours of ethnographic research at Hopkins Hospital to identify an unmet need, especially in the sleep apnea space. And then we identified this to be a pressing need because without sleep, patients, it's doubling the risk of stroke, heart attack, diabetes, and it's causing so much health consequences. So we wanted to make sure that this is an important problem and try to find a solution for it. And then we all came together as a team to solve this problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the founder of Medland, the first peer-to-peer lending platform for physicians in Latin America. Can you imagine having a 65% annual rate for a personal loan in a traditional bank? Well, this is mostly the case in Mexico and a lot of countries across Latin America. And the main reason being that approximately 50% of the population is unbanked, and there is a high demand for this type of loan, and the demand keeps the rates high. And this comes as an incredible opportunity for fintech companies to thrive. And US investors know this, almost more than doubling their participation rate in these kind of deals in the last couple of years, constituting 14 out of the 55 unicorns in the region. However, none of these companies are addressing doctors' financial needs. And here's the thing, only 20% of the doctors in Mexico who apply for a loan get it because the market is unpenetrated, the process and access are awful, and the banking platforms are terrible. And also, getting a loan for a doctor is challenging in Latin America since they don't have a payment history, they don't have a credit score, and building this up can take up to 10 years. Here, the market potential is massive. If you take into account all of the doctors in Mexico and their customer lifetime value, you get a TAM of $4.5 billion. Our aim will be to target the recently graduated doctors and get 30% of this market share to get us a service obtainable market of $62.1 million. And we think that we can reach this in the next 5 years.
Also, this is only the market of Mexico without counting other big markets in Latin America like Brazil, Colombia, Chile, where millions of doctors are suffering the same issue. Fintech space is expected to grow 10x with a compound annual growth rate of 22.3%, making this a multi-billion-dollar shadow market ready for the right approach, one that builds trust, makes the process simpler, and reduces the friction. And we are built for this opportunity. We want to offer the best APR for doctors. We want to be the first peer-to-peer lending platform for doctors, by doctors, and we want to be the most accessible and easy to use platform for this segment. Our loan application process is transparent, safe, and trustworthy. And just in 3 simple steps, doctors can get a loan. You just need to get your ID in place, medical license, take a selfie, complete the loan application program on our app, and get approved within the next 48 and 72 hours. Our step-by-step process has been validated by any successful startup company. First, we found a niche market where large players, in this case banks, offer a bad experience. Then we started with a product that differentiates by giving doctors loans. Then instead of spending thousands of dollars in marketing, we spend it on referrals and connecting with our community. After getting our first investments, we plan to bank the unbanked and then have a process of continuous improvement within our platform and the best customer experience for doctors. We have a community-driven business model that relies on rapidly growing and trusting customer base, increasing revenue per customer, having low operation cost, which eventually will lead to increased earning power and impact. And our pricing model is highly attractive for US standards. We give out a $7,000 loan with low risk and low default rate, a 45% and APR, which is 20% below the market, and a great gross profit margin for the industry of 32%. We want to get, for every $7,000 loan, $2,251 net earning after cost. And for every dollar that we are gonna get from our investors, 85% will be allocated towards individual loans, 10% for operational cost, and 5% for risk mitigation. And as we continue giving out these loans, we want to prove that doctors are a reliable investment and the risk mitigation number will go down. As we're saying, we are the only platform in the market that is especially catered for physicians, have a loan approval of less than 3 days, have the best APR in the market, is easy to use, but most importantly, is based on pure trust. We're looking at $4.5 million to go to market. So far, we've run a pilot of 11 loans that we've given to doctors without a single default. By August 2024, we want to start building on our payment gateway and processing platform. And by January 2025, get our first pre-seed of $0.5 million, give out the first 20 loans. And by mid-2026, raise our Series A, give out 400 loans, and also turn all of these loans digital. And we have the right team to do it. I am the CEO, and I am a doctor. And I myself have experienced the issue and the struggle of not having access to financial opportunities. We have 2 engineers in the team, one dedicated to software development, the other one focusing on strategy, and 2 lawyers, one with previous experience in M&A, working with a bank, and the other one, a foreign transaction lawyer focusing on Mexico and US investment deals. By fostering community, we want to act and serve as a bridge that brings doctors together. We are Medland, a company of doctors, empowering the next generation of doctors. Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the default rate. So what is the default rate that a lot of the fintechs are seeing right now in Latin America, and how does that compare to, I guess, like typical like US default rates?
Sure, as we say, we are using pretty conservative numbers. Right now, the default rate for fintechs is around 5%, and we're expecting for our company to these rates just to go down as we give out more loans.
Got it. Thank you.
What is the loan used for? What is the $7,000 going to, and then what's the terms, over what term or time is the payment period?
Sure. So the average loan we give is for 48 months, and then they doctors have many uses for it. After they graduate, they can use it to start their own private practice, start like paying for a deposit for their family houses, and they also have like personal expenses after so many years of medical school. But our aim is to give them access early on in life so that they can expand this loan eventually in the future.
So these are personal loans, not not business
Not
loans.
business. These are personal loans. But the issue is that if they want to start a practice, they don't even have like access to a business loan to start the practice.
Can you talk to us a little bit about sort of the other milestones related to getting your business set up and sort of what the status of those are?
Sure. So we are planning to get investment for our pre-seed round, get $0.5 million to start giving out 20 loans and then start building on our software platform. After this, we believe we got a lot of traction after giving out 11 loans. And the reason we stopped doing that, we were acting as brokers with a major bank, and they were charging us 70% APR rate. And we didn't want to continue doing that. We want to work for the doctors and help them be benefited by our platform. So that's the thing.
So when you're thinking about your go-to-market pathway, and you're thinking about your scaling, are you thinking more about, the funders of the loan or the folks who you're going to be loaning to? Can you talk a little bit just about how you're planning to grow and scale the business past initial investments?
Sure. So at first, we're gonna, as I mentioned, we already built some traction. So we have the doctors interested. We made 150 surveys in the major medical universities across Mexico. And the interest is there. 9 out of 10 doctors are interested in getting this type of loans. So we know that there is a market for it. Then what we are trying to get is to transition from giving out the loans on our offices, like physically to escalate on our software platform. That is our strategy, to escalate like within the next year and a half, turn 50% of the loans that we get digital, and then within 3 years' time, just migrate this to 100% digital after we give out our 400 loan.
I understand why there's a need now while APR are so high, but as the market heats up, there's more competition and we start seeing APR come down from a lot of the other providers that are entering the space. What do you think is going to give you a continuous advantage to stay ahead of the market?
So I have that right here. So why doctors? Well, first of all, they have a stable career and high earnings. So the high earning potential is massive. Then they're essential providers. So the healthcare sector is pretty stable. So also professional integrity and the low default rate made this market accessible and super attractive for investors. No one is addressing this market because it's for the traditional banks and fintechs is small. But the thing is that we can build upon this market after giving out the loans to give larger loans and also increase our offer by giving for example, liability insurance and liability insurance services. Adding more services to our current platform would be the next way to go to make this market bigger.
All right, thank you so much, Renee. Excited to keep things going and welcome our next presenter of the evening, Aquaparas.
Yeah, we'll swap.
Hello, My name is Alexander Rovolino. And we founded Aquaptus together with Ethan, Kathy, and Adriana. We have combined over 20 years of experience in fields such as mechanical engineering, reliability engineering, and data science at leading companies and organizations. We've worked together for over 3 years before founding Aquaptus this year. This is the scene of a major water main break. And while this is disastrous, I'd like to direct you to the street directly outside this building where there's currently a water main break happening right now. It's been happening for 4 weeks. This happens anywhere, at any time, especially here in Baltimore. Across the United States, there's a water main break every 2 minutes. And in Baltimore this winter, there will be 40 water main breaks a day. So this adds up to $23.6 billion in the costs fixing broken pipes, which is half of all water maintenance activities, and leads to 2.1 trillion gallons of water lost to the environment. That's 20% of all water lost and adds up to another $5 billion in value. We've broken this problem into 3 parts. Firstly, water infrastructure is aging, and the older it gets, the more likely that it is to fail. Second, cities don't keep information about their pipes, such as their age, condition, and location sometimes. As a result, cities don't know which pipes to fix until they fail when it's too late. However, we have the solution. The Canary is a multi-sensor device that uses visual, acoustic, and other secondary data to scan the inside of water pipes and deliver condition assessments for cities. It's very easy to use. An operator first sets it up and places it into the water main through a valve or fire hydrant. From there, it spends several hours completing an assessment carried along by the force of the water. And at the very end of that assessment, it signals an operator, is retrieved, and has its data uploaded. That data is then used and analyzed and visualized for maintenance engineers to see which pipes are most vulnerable to break and which pipes should be fixed next, right before they break, instead of after they break.
We'll be piloting our device within the village of Ossining in New York. We'll be exploring how the device will flow through the 44 miles of water mains that the town has, looking at data acquisition as well as flow characterization. When looking at the costs that unplanned maintenance can bring to municipalities, a lot of water main breaks range from small to medium, which can range in the thousands of dollars for them. At the rare occasion that there's a large break, that could lead to millions of dollars in lost funds. Looking at the proactive repair, we see that just a proactive repair can account for $1,000, which leads to about 90% of cost savings, which is a clear solution for municipalities. The unplanned maintenance problem is a problem faced by the 52,000 community water systems within the United States, accounting for about $23.6 billion. We're targeting the cities that range from 10,000 to 100,000 in terms of population, and especially those that are completely owned and operated by the public government. We're targeting 10% of that unplanned maintenance cost, and calculating an average contract size of about $50,000, we estimate annual revenue ranging up to $100 million. When looking at our competitors, there's often a trade-off between the frequency of data acquisition as well as the geographic range. Aquaptus accounts for all of this, which shows that it's a clear solution for municipalities. In terms of our timeline, we have key milestones in January where we're beginning our pilot with Ossining, and then we expect to secure our first contract and revenue in April of next year, moving on into seed funding and then further expanding our products in fall of next year. We see a steady growth in our contract size, as well as moderately growing customer acquisition within the next few years. And by year 5, we aim to see significant revenue gains.
So we've spoken a lot about the financial motives for our solution, but we cannot understate the environmental impact that we can have. As the global climate increasingly destabilizes, water security becomes an ever-pressing need for cities and towns, not just in the US, but across the world. That means that the need for our solution becomes ever more urgent. Communities should be using their water for drinking, for sustainable agriculture, for clean energy generation, instead of wasting it in leakage. That's why Aquaptus ensures that cities are well prepared for an uncertain future. Thank you.
Can you go into some detail for us about the sensor technology that's on board the Canary and sort of how is it actually doing the diagnosis to indicate where a leak is or where there's going to be an issue?
Yeah, so we're still in development of our solution and preparing it for our pilot. However, currently we have on board visual data collection, which would be a camera that can collect data in 3 dimensions, as well as acoustic sensing data, which is currently what most competitors use to listen for leaks. And we're combining that as well as other secondary sensors, which are more useful for a predictive model, such as the pressure of the water, the temperature, pH, to build a comprehensive condition assessment and use that to, as well as external characteristics such as climate, soil quality, to build a proper risk assessment for pipes and predict when they fail.
Can you then share with us sort of what is the proprietary component of what's going to be in the technology?
Yeah, so it's the design itself of this is building on previous technology that's is out there and taking it to the next level of increasing the number of sensors. Past this prototype, we'll also be launching a modular version, which allows utilities to swap which characteristics they're testing for, improve battery life and different parameters. And that's part of our IP strategy is to continuously improve on this and add more components and make sure that this is entirely protected.
Can you go back to the prior question? I'm trying to separate out slideware from what you actually have. So the current prototype will do what? Sound and video?
Sound, video, and we anticipate being able to add infrared technology and ultrasonic.
Okay, and how hard is it to add them and how much time will that take? Are these things you can add in the next 6 months or are these things that will take 1 and 2 years time for anything to be proven out?
These will be added in 2 weeks.
Okay.
In that time frame.
And then can you discuss what the business model is?
Yeah.
That part wasn't clear.
Okay, so we will be leasing these to municipalities and their water departments. So that would be year-long leases where we offer our technology to be operated by them. However, they would be uploading their data and we would be running analysis before delivering that data to them. So at heart, we really are a data company giving cities the intelligence to make better maintenance decisions. And we enable that with our hardware solution.
How do you envision selling into the city, into municipalities, and what was the process like to get that pilot started? I mean, just as somebody who's tried selling into municipalities before, it's a very, very slow, very painful process typically. So I'm curious just how you're thinking about that.
So yeah, selling to municipalities is really tough, and that's definitely a challenge we faced. But we found a couple of partners that are well, not officially customers. They're people who are really excited about our product. And in the water industry, it's very close knit, and people are very excited about the cutting edge, about making sure that their systems are the best. And that's what we found in Austining is someone who's on the cutting edge, excited to be our partner and work with us to deliver something that's best for Austining. We have another lead in New Jersey that we're closing up right now that, within municipalities, these water departments are often a little bit more agile and a little bit more easy to deal with than the upper municipality. So as a result, we found a little bit more receptiveness and a bit more excitement to try out new technology and try to deliver those results for their city.
So when you've done some of your stakeholder interviews, what type of feedback have you gotten where they're giving you pushback? What are they afraid of? And how are you going to be addressing those?
Yeah. So one concern is that to place a new device into water systems, it requires NSF certification. That's something that we're actively pursuing right now. So ahead of that, before we can start actually placing that into pipes safely, we're anticipating being able to test this in parts of their pipe systems that are under less risk, such as stormwater, sanitary sewers, and longer range aqueducts. So that allows us to mitigate some of those concerns that we've heard a lot up front, since we're still in that development stage, without being fully roadblocked by those challenges.
Could you go into a little bit? You mentioned that the proactive repair only costs $1,000. I'm trying to envision anything a government does, like digging up pipes and repairing them, costing $1,000. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's $1,000. And some cities say they average around $500, and that's because they can do stuff without digging up those pipes. They can go in through a valve and do almost like a minimally invasive surgery on these pipes, and that keeps it pretty low. But when it destroys a street, when in Los Angeles it destroys a historical basketball court that cost $1 million, when it destroys the Penn Station subway stop recently in New York City. That's something that has much higher cost than that proactive.
Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Alexander and Will. Next up is Nurse Tech, so we'll keep it going.
Okay. Awesome. So my dear friend and co-founder, Ali, an ICU nurse, experienced firsthand the overwork and understaffing brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, 1 in 2 nurses see patients suffer from being overburdened at work, feel guilty about taking any breaks, including go to the bathroom, and wish they could just have a full time for lunch. So why are our COVID heroes so pressed for their time? Well, 150 nurse interviews showed us that ICU nurses can spend up to 2 hours a shift just detangling and organizing cords and tubes in an environment that looks like this. And they hate it. It's the bane of nursing. In fact, they jimmy rig solutions that use tape and tongue depressors onto beds to try to mitigate this problem, but doesn't help much. Well, all this infusion confusion, as it's sometimes called, causes more patient transfer time, inadvertent pulled lines, medical administration errors, and fall hazards. 61% of ambulation time is spent just on cord management. And for reference, early ambulation is getting patients up and moving as soon and safely as is possible following some trauma or surgery. And nurses push this a ton on their floors because the research has shown that it has great metrics for patient outcomes and hospital savings. From my background as an engineer, I've learned that small and simple solutions are often the most effective and translatable. That's why Ali and I came up with the CordFlex device. CordFlex is a bedside clip that quickly and easily organizes tubes and cords in the ICU. It attaches onto just about any bedside structure, such as an IV pole, walker, or even a hospital gown. It allows nurses to customize which attachments they use for organization, self-adjusts to let lines slide through quickly and easily when patients move, and also detaches easily during emergencies. 90% of nurses say they'd use CordFlex if it was stocked, mainly due to 74% of them feeling like they'd be safer ambulating patients when they use it, and it's saving 37% of time on line tracing tasks. So who's our target market? We're focused on large teaching hospitals and magnet hospitals, specifically selling to, of course, ICUs like cardiac and surgical ICUs. These are generally where the early adopters are. We've already been in talks with various hospitals and distributors across the nation. However, we're focused on selling through the IMDA distributor network, which focuses on these early device sales and has a global network. The CordFlex is priced at about $16, costs about $4 to make. Distributors expect about 30% of the sales profit, so we expect just under 50% margins. Considering that 13.5% of all hospital beds are ICU beds, the average patient stays about 4 days, and using 2 of these devices per hospital bed, it will cost about $3,000 per patient bed yearly for this device. And this is a good investment because the yearly savings per ICU bed caused by this device will be over $1,500 in patient transportation time saved, over $250 in inadvertent pulled lines, over $1,600 in medication administration errors, and more to be determined in falls prevented. This does not consider as well secondary benefits such as nurse satisfaction and reinvested time that could potentially go into early discharge times due to the save time from the previous conditions. We're also exploring possibilities for reimbursable CBT codes from our device. Using a bottom-up approach, the total addressable US market size is 266 million with a CAGR of 5.4%, but we aim to penetrate about 8% of that market, focusing on our early adopters. Our initial strategy of getting into hospital will be a little bit rocky, as most hospitals like to adopt new products that have already been adopted. So we expect the first half of 2024 to get at least 3 ICUs in, and then scale that up by about 300% for the second half. The way we plan to do that is by working through the distributor network, presenting at different conferences and trade shows, and also through local nurse coalitions. We're ready to go to market. We have our US patent application that's filed, and we validated our device as a Class 1 exempt device, in addition to our prototype, which you've been able to take a look at there. We do have both direct and indirect competitors. However, we're more mobile and customizable with a better single-use emergency release and kink-free system. We're validating those metrics through our pilot studies taking place, just about to take place at OHSU in Oregon, followed by our patient pilot studies as we're putting the final touches on our manufacturing design. And we're finishing our sales playbook for our distributors to guide them towards their first sales here in the next 2 weeks, as we plan to scale and start selling at the beginning of next year. Thanks to my great co-founder, Ali, and other team members, Ankush and Yash, I'll be jumping in full time in a month to contribute my time here on Nurse Tech. And in closing, we do have a product, we have a plan, and we have interested and excited distributors to be able to contribute to our COVID heroes through the CordFlex device. By choosing us today, you'll be able to give us the vital momentum to get into the market quickly and into the hands of nurses like my friend Ali. Thank you.
So I know we have the slide about the projected growth model. Can you talk to us a little bit how that's connected to the distribution strategy, how you arrange those partnerships, and sort of take us up a level, and sort of how does the business plan work out?
Absolutely. We first aim, and we've been working with the IMDA's association. There's several distributors. For example, one of them is the Eastern Rail System, where we'll sell alongside, they sell bed systems and bed rail systems. A lot of times these partnerships are great opportunities to sell other products. So these established distributors work with first-time products that are going into the hospital fields, and they pull in other side-by-side products that go along nicely with those. So we've been in talks with the president of that system, and we'll be working to advertise through those people and through the first conference that's coming up in March here with them to expand from there.
Could you go into a little bit, why haven't your competitors succeeded? Like, I know you said that your product is better, and I believe that's a better clip, but the others are also clips and they work. And if the status quo is as bad as you say it is, like, I would imagine that they would have some more traction. So, like, how far have they gotten? What, like, where do you think you're going to land relative to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have one competitor, the Beata Clasp, which has gotten into a fair number of hospitals already, and we've gotten great feedback from actually hospital users of that device who've also trialed our device. So they've started to build up traction, and they've just got their second product. Another device is more of a strap, like an arm strap device. That's a little bit more invasive on the patient, and they've actually just started about the same amount of traction. All of our companies started about the same time back in 2021. So we've kind of all been growing through this process together. They're slightly ahead with a few more sales in several systems.
So talking more about sales, how do you balance, thinking about this is something a bunch of nurses want versus this is something that the hospital procurement is actually going to buy? And then also with working with distributors, how do you think about as like a new product not getting lost in the catalog?
That's a great question. For your first question, a lot of these hospital metrics for time savings and as well as cost savings are at the top of mind of a lot of nurses that we've talked to. A lot of nursing departments we've talked to, and some people more involved in the purchasing. So if they know that there will be significant savings, not only just in time that they reinvest, but also like specifically on the books, we believe that they'll be motivated as well. And then hearing from their nurses, which we've gotten great feedback for. Your second question, which is going into distribution, we specifically picked the IMDA network because they are experts at going in with these small products before a lot of them do get acquired by larger companies like Cardinal Health or McKesson or other.
what's the risk that these get reused, that you don't get all these purchases per year? It's, they basically keep it till they lose it, or they wipe it down and clean it. I've seen this with other medical devices that were supposed to be single use, and they weren't single use, they were repeated use.
So, sorry, I couldn't quite hear you, but what's the risk if it's
Yeah,
not
I'm just
single
trying to,
use?
how do you make, I liked how you did your market and stuff. Unlike many, you actually were honest and linear. But I'm just curious, I've seen in hospitals things like this where things will get reused just for varying reasons.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, one of our competitors currently is a reuse device. There's actually a previous study that showed kind of a risk of infection just from like even stickers they put on, and just they swabbed one after a few days, which is a normal hospital stay, right? And about 13 of the 36 like bacteria that they found were pathogenic. So there's a lot of that risk, and a risk of what's called CLABSI. That's a big hospital metric they want to avoid. But in the case that they do want to reuse the same case, we will market reusable inserts for them. And if they are interested in that instead.
For your manufacturing, I know that's one of your next steps. Have you figured out the, design for manufacture and assembly? Where are you in that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're putting a few final touches and tweaks on our device to make sure that our arms are secure and they feel good in the hands of nurses. But we've partnered currently with a company in India that we've been in talks with, and we're ready to design our molds here and send them over to them. But we're hoping for a little bit more funding, and that the amount that you guys would give to us today would be able to cover basically the majority of that cost and get us right on the road.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to hand over the mic to Iris and Charlie, and they are going to get started in just momentarily.
Hi, we are Council AI, and we believe that everyone deserves a fair defense. Last summer, I worked at the Baltimore Public Defender's Office, where I witnessed firsthand how the work of criminal defense attorneys directly impacts their clients. Now, I've sat behind these clients in court as they've been sentenced to prison. But I've also heard the sighs of relief as these clients know that there is an effective defense attorney ready to defend them. And here at Council AI, we want to be a part of that difference. Right now, public defenders lack the time and staffing that they need to effectively argue their cases. In fact, it takes 8 hours per case for lawyers to manually flip through thousands of pages of raw case discovery alone. However, on average, public defenders only spent 2 hours doing this 8-hour task, and the clients have suffered because 4 times too many cases have resulted in a plea deal, whereas there was enough evidence for these cases to be taken to trial and to try for innocence. And this is a nationwide problem because criminal defense firms spend $9.4 billion on this case discovery problem alone. At Council AI, we believe that there is a better way. We are an AI-powered co-pilot that assists criminal defense attorneys with this high-volume case discovery. We use machine learning and natural language processing to transcribe handwritten documents, for example, medical records, into normalized text. We categorize this jumble of raw case files. We sort them into categories like medical records, criminal records, evidence, and witness statements, so that lawyers can make sense of the information that is right in front of them. And we summarize key content to make their lives easier. Overall, we're saving them time, we're improving the accuracy of their work, but most importantly, we are improving case outcomes. Because now lawyers are not spending those hours flipping through stacks of case discovery. They're out talking to their clients. They're out investigating the cases, and they're out thinking of better defense strategies to help the people. We are not ChatGPT for lawyers. However, our competitors all make the same mistake of using generative AI. In fact, all of the defense attorneys that we spoke to at the Maryland Office of the Public Defender said that they are not interested in a generative AI solution, and it's not difficult to see why. It backfires all the time. They are not ready to take on this legal liability and the false recommendations that generative AI can possibly give out. Council AI, we have a unique approach. Our two biggest competitors, ChatGPT and CaseText, they try to take over a lawyer's due diligence by doing the legal research for them and by recommending defense strategies. But we want lawyers to do what lawyers do best, and that's using their years of human interaction and experience to analyze the raw evidence and formulate defense strategies based off of that. We are not trying to take over a lawyer's job. Rather, we only want to reduce the work that lawyers should not even have been doing in the first place. Our software caters to the needs of law firms. They want privacy. Well, that's why our application is downloadable so that information never has to be sent out into the internet. For an online application, we use encryption strategies and federated machine learning to protect client data. They want accuracy. Well, that's why our algorithms are trained on 6.5 million criminal decisions so that they're better able to interpret legal text and produce accurate output. They want a solution that's going to make their lives easier and not harder. So that's why with our platform, lawyers can upload case packets in 3 clicks and instantaneously start seeing output. Here we have a demo of our software. You can see how the raw case files are uploaded from a lawyer's desktop. They're able to see our analysis right away. All the files are sorted into categories at the top, and under each category, you're able to see a summary of all the files that were sorted under it. But most importantly, all of our output is tagged to the original source file so that our output is verifiable and validated by the lawyers.
A lawyer's time is valuable. We are only going to charge roughly $1,000 per lawyer per year for our product. Some lawyers bill more than that per hour. Think of the potential savings when scaled up to the size of an entire law firm. But our value does not end there. Through time reduction, accuracy improvement, and burnout reduction through a better experience for lawyers, we will produce better case outcomes, which will in turn translate into higher billables and more customers. Our go-to-market strategy. We have already received interest in purchasing our product from the Maryland Office of the Public Defender, and this creates a template that we can replicate in public defenders' offices in each state. From here, the plan is simple. We expand into private legal offices here in Maryland, and then use these relationships to expand across the country, using our foothold in criminal defense law to expand into other areas of law. Our product is market ready now, and we begin piloting with the Maryland Office of Public Defender within a month. Our fuel funding will be used to help pilot our product in broader markets and integrate pilot feedback into our product. In 6 months, we plan to convert our pilot participants into paid customers, and from there, we want to grow exponentially, onboarding developers to expand our capabilities and growing to the entire US market. And after that, we want to even expand internationally. I'm Charlie Wheelock, CFO, and we're working with Athurva, our CTO, who's not here today, but he's a PhD in machine learning and previous experience.
And I'm the founder and CEO, Iris Gupta. I have experience in the Maryland Public Defender's Office and a background in human AI interaction. We believe this team has the expertise and experience needed to tackle the challenges of this venture. Thank you.
So you spent a good amount of time talking about why your platform has less of a liability than other Gen AI platforms out there, right? At the end of the day, though, you're still generating a summary of case files. And if you generate a summary that's either inaccurate or misses key information from that case file, aren't you still opening yourselves up to a lot of liability?
Yeah, so from the interviews we've done with criminal defense attorneys, there is a bright line of risk that they are willing to take. So they are not willing to take on the risk of incorrect legal research or incorrect legal defense recommendations. The risk that they are willing to take, which is inherent with any AI generated output, is summary generation and file classification. And to even reduce that risk, we make sure that all of our output is tagged to source files. So you can highlight a line of a summary that we've generated. It tells you which page number from the original case file it came from, and lawyers are able to validate that if there's any doubts. But that is a level of risk that the interviews we've conducted have revealed that lawyers are willing to take.
Sorry, thanks. One follow-up question. Do you think, though, that like a client has a case against you guys if there was something that was omitted from the summary entirely? Like, I get that you're citing things in the summary, like from the original files, but let's say that there's something that's entirely omitted. Like, do you think that that opens up you guys at all?
Um, I believe there would be some level of liability if our output omitted facts altogether, but a couple ways we would address that. First of all, we just are continuing to train our algorithm, make it increasingly accurate and validate it by lawyers. But second of all, what we really emphasize with our product is that we're a co-pilot for lawyers and we're not trying to take over any due diligence that they do already. They use our software as it makes their lives easier. So if they believe that there's something really crucial to their case discovery in the criminal history, they're going to look through it no matter what. Our goal is to just reduce work that they don't want to be doing and they shouldn't in the first place. Thank you for your questions.
So how did you land on your pricing? Can you walk me through how you thought through that?
Yes. So that's based on the pricing of some of our competitors, indirect and more direct, and based on their capabilities and where we land kind of in that spectrum. So for example, we have case management software that's trying to integrate AI into their platform, which is a little bit less capability than us. And their value added is something around, I think it was about $50-something per lawyer per month. We're sitting at about 85. And then there's Casetext, one of our largest and most developed legal AI competitors, which for a tier of AI, because they differentiate based on different functionalities that law firms might want. They're sitting at about $100 per lawyer per month. And so I just kind of, it's comparable in other competitors in the market. So it's not based so much on what law firms can spend, it's based on other firms in the market.
Got it. Thank you. And a quick follow-up to that, what are your costs per customer?
Extremely low. We're a software company, so overhead is minimal. We have a small team. And yeah, not much right now.
Yeah, I would say the developing expertise or manpower that we have on the team right now is sufficient for our short-term goals. There is a point where we would go for seed funding, which is at a point we want to drastically expand our capabilities and our outreach, at which point a lot of our costs will come from onboarding a marketing team and onboarding a greater developing team. But with our current capabilities, we believe we're able to generate revenue with low cost.
Can you summarize some of the findings from your conversations with clients of the legal teams?
Yeah, so we've spoken to several defense attorneys at the Maryland Public Defender's Office, and a lot of our customer discovery comes along from me working at the law firm as well. But two main things that we've heard. First is privacy concerns with maintaining client confidentiality. So they just want to make sure that there's not any data leaks with cases that they upload. Even they want to make sure that us as developers are not able to see the cases they upload.
Is this from the clients? I'm asking about actual clients that are working with, yes, the
Oh,
defendants.
sorry, like the people being represented by the defense
What did they
lawyers.
have to say?
We have yet to do discovery with defendants themselves, but just based on what I've observed working in the office, any way that a lawyer is able to spend more time with the client, talking to them and getting more insight on the case is something that's going to ultimately benefit them. So we believe clients would be very happy about this product.
As I'm hearing this, and I may not fully understand it, I just keep hearing or sensing that this is a commoditized product, that it doesn't differentiate, that there's nothing better over time. And something tells me that's not right. And I'm just trying to understand, is there a way that you or someone so differentiates themselves is better that as opposed to everyone having to price it $1,000 a year, right? The Bloomberg terminal charges, what is it, 30,000 a year or something? Because it delivers so much more than others can get, others deliver. Is there the ability to do that in this market, or is this always going to be basically heavily commoditized because everyone does enough of the same thing that you just can't charge up for it?
Yes, so once we expand beyond the criminal defense market, you could move into any number of other areas of law, which grows the market significantly. Additionally, as capabilities increase, as we continue developing, we could get more features on our product, which would allow us to charge a higher price. Again, this market is relatively new, so it's worth finding customers first and then determining what they would be willing to pay versus what they would be willing to do to competitors before we start making decisions on raising prices. But I do think that's a definite possibility in the future.
All right, thank you very much, Council AI. Really exciting to see how AI with ChatGPT is just about a year old. I don't know if any of you have seen those headlines, but so many developments already in such a short amount of time. Next, we have Smartiva, and he's right behind me, but I want to make sure I'm getting to his slides. All right, without further ado, here's Juan.
So that was me. This is a story of how 10 years of development got me there and here. My name is Juan Fernandez, and I'm proud to introduce Smartiva. So anesthesia has a big problem. It is bad for patients and bad for the environment. I mean, it's not bad for patients. It allows you to be cut open without you even realizing it, but it doesn't feel great. And the same bottle, the same gas that makes you nauseous and delirious is also very harmful to the environment. And it's actually being restricted in some countries now. Also, the dosing in anesthesia is based on statistical charts. So individual dosing has become necessary. The need for this has been addressed a long time ago, as this pic from the ASA magazine shows it. So what is the solution for this? So do we have a nice video, a technology, or a product? This is a fully functional product. It's been approved in Colombia and is used on a daily basis by clinicians in the OR. And there's no better way to show confidence in your product than to let it work on yourself. So that's me on the operating table being anesthetized by Smartiva. And I can tell you firsthand how nice and easy the recovery process was. I wrote a blog about it in case you want to check it out on our website later. But we also have formal clinical evidence. We have a first human case report, a single blinded trial, and a multi-center study that proved the efficacy, safety, and cost effectiveness of our technology. Our addressable market has been stated at $1.3 billion, since we've been reaching a portion of anesthetic drugs, anesthesia equipment, and anesthetic gases market. But who's gonna pay for it? Initially, plastic surgeons, because they are the ones who want their patients to come back to the OR. And usually they're more scared of the anesthesia than the procedure itself. And also, pharmaceutical companies because they want to lock the contracts with their customers. And this technology allows them to do so while monitoring their consumptions. And how do we know this? Because we already proved it. We've had traction for the past 6 years in Colombia. And this year, we signed a new contract with a pharmaceutical company called Vitalis that brings recurrent revenue to this business model. These are the companies that are pushing Tiva in the world. They're European pump manufacturers, and MaxSleepy, which is still a research project, Neurowave, who's focusing on military applications, and Sedasis. The one at the bottom right there was a project developed by Johnson & Johnson that was canceled because of the backlash they got from FDA, ASA, and the market itself. So their failure analysis actually plays a big role in our strategy. We have 2 patents. We have 1 patent granted in Colombia, another one currently going through PCT, and we're planning to file for 4 new patent applications in the US office. This is my team. We're 5 engineers with different majors, a finance specialist, a closed business advisor, and an anesthesiologist as our CMO. They're all based in Colombia. I was also born and raised there, but came here to the US 6 months ago to make this dream happen. So what's my plan? Well, first was to grow my network by getting into a renowned accelerator, and here I am. With the non-dilutive funds that I'll be getting, we'll lay the ground for our first 510K submission. And after an infusion pump integration and a hardware interface, we'll have solid basis to go for a de novo process and for a closed loop algorithm. Let's bring greener and safer anesthesia to the market together. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you like my pitch.
So you pretty quickly showed a traction chart. Could you maybe just summarize or jump back to it? So what was your revenue in the last year? What do you project for next year?
Almost $700,000.
Great. And then of the device in front of you, looks very impressive. How much of it did you guys actually build yourselves? How much is like off the shelf?
We designed this and this. We don't manufacture it. This is manufactured by OEM manufacturers, and this is a monitor by a US company called Masimo, which we have an agreement with. And we've also done some clinical studies with another brain monitor from Medtronic. So basically this, and the software.
Thank you.
Could you go back to your FDA slide? And then while you're going there, my question with FDA is, what are your biggest hurdles with getting through? I know you said kind of the other group's failure is part of your strategy. So what is your strategy for getting through FDA and being able to expand your market?
Yeah. So the biggest hurdle from FDA actually comes from learning from the Sedasis experience. And what we're actually doing is telling them that we're only doing it for intubated patients. That means airway and oxygenation is not under our intended use, and we de-risk that completely. And we also say that the brain monitor is always available in the technology. So that means that the risk of intraoperative awareness of the patient waking up during the surgery is much lower.
And have you had any pre-meetings with FDA yet?
We had a pre-sub meeting last year, and that was one of the reasons why I decided that it was worth coming.
Thank you.
So a couple of questions. Oftentimes I'll see new medical devices that look great. And then when they try to sell them, the answer is what we have is good enough. And so I don't dispute anything that you've said, but millions of patients go under sedation every day, and I've not read anything about this being a huge problem. So really just trying to understand how this really is something that's going to get caught on. And related to that, can you talk about how these devices get sold? Because my guess is a lot of these are bundled into sales into the suites as part of an overall system. So while your component may be better, you're effectively boxed out by the big players. So just big problem is, can you do a bit more on the problem? And then second on actually getting it in and getting around the good enough hurdle.
Okay, so for your initial question, we're designing this initially for general anesthesia, not sedation. And in fact, there are many surveys in general anesthesia that show that patients do have a big concern with their recovery. My father-in-law here had a surgery last year, and the worst part was recovering from anesthesia. So there's actually a lot of value into having their patients coming out of the recovery room sooner than the usual anesthetic. So it's been documented, and it's a big need in the market. I'm sorry if I didn't get the other. Yeah, we're gonna sell it through, well, what we're doing right now, and that's what we're going to validate here, is sell it to private surgical centers, which have the money and the interest to bring that capital in, but also through the pharmaceutical companies. With that, we're skipping the whole reimbursement process. The pharmaceuticals are paying us a monthly revenue, and then they are giving or leasing the device to the hospital, to big hospitals, in order to lock the contracts with their customer. Yeah, so we also have to secure the IP. All the IP that we have granted is in Colombia. So we have 2 or 3 milestones in order to have a robust patent family here in the US. And the other one is finding clinical champions and finding people that is interested in doing the clinical trial in the US. For the de novo process, we are definitely going to need to do a clinical trial. And we are far ahead in the development of the technology, but our network still has to grow a lot. So finding those doctors and those clinical teams is our main milestone right now.
Shocking. All right, thank you so much, Juan. Excited to welcome up the next team, which is Orbit Technology.
Does yours work?
Hello?
Hello? Okay. Nice. When I was a child, video games filled my world with magic. Oh, I'm too far. Yeah. But as I got older, I felt some of that wonder start to go away. And I tried all this immersive gaming tech to try to bring it back, but I felt like nothing could quite bring back the same wonder. This problem, my problem, is the defining challenge of the video game industry. For most gamers, the leading factor for gaming-related purchases is immersion, the feeling of really being inside of a game. And the whole gaming industry knows this. In fact, they even gather in conventions just to talk about it. But despite putting billions of dollars into immersive technologies like virtual reality, they kind of hit a brick wall. People are still not adopting them, and VR is unable to provide that magic, that killer application that everyone is looking for. And none of them quite know how to fix that. And that is where we come in. I'm Steven.
And I'm Colton, and we have built that killer technology. Our device is a small chip that you put behind your ear like you would a pair of headphones. And through it, we use non-invasive electrical signals to stimulate the motion centers of your brain. And in doing so, we can generate hallucinations of movement. Now, what does that mean? We can make you feel like you're moving even when you're sitting still. So if you're walking around and you're walking straight, These hallucinations are actually strong enough that we can control the direction you move. When you feel like you're moving right, your body will compensate and you'll walk to the left. And while it's a lot of fun to go into the student center with our headset and a Bluetooth steering wheel and drive students around, that's not what we're interested in. What we're a lot more excited for is pairing this technology with video games. So in doing so, by syncing up the movements that you see on the screen with what we induce through our headset, you're able to feel what you would feel if you were in the game. So if you're playing and you're paragliding through some canyon, doing all sorts of turns and barrel rolls, you would feel as if you are really sitting in that parachute. It's awesome.
And if this sounds kind of like magic, it kind of is. And when you take this little piece of magical thing and you implement it with virtual experiences, what you get is absolutely incredible. We've built the killer application for virtual reality. We've created a way for VR to be magical and amazing. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to enter the market in Q2 of 2024 with one very specific game called, one specific VR game called Elite Dangerous. And if you've ever played Elite Dangerous, you'll know exactly why. And if you haven't, just imagine being inside of a TIE fighter in Star Wars and driving it around. It is the perfect integration for something that we are building. And we did a demo with our product at a DC Gaming Club a couple days ago. And when we mentioned that we were building for Elite Dangerous, their faces lit up. And some of them straight up asked us whether they could pre-order it. Our goal is to capture 1% of the players of Elite Dangerous within 2 years. And it might sound like 1 in 100 is not a whole lot of people, but if we did that, we would be able to generate $90 million in revenue. The exact number, hitting 90 million, is not the most critical part here. The most critical thing to illustrate is the central point that what we made, this magical thing that we've created, is not niche. And there are a lot of people who want it.
That number is not what's most important. In fact, half of Americans, by the time they reach 50, develop balance disorders like vertigo. A third of those Americans, by the time they reach 40, are at fall risks because of it. And 250,000 more of us have balance disorders so debilitating that they can hardly live their lives. Our technology can induce feelings in your vestibular system with a high degree of precision and magnitude. If we put an accelerometer on that, we can make your vestibular system feel what it's supposed to feel, mitigating the effects of these balance disorders, and in some cases, getting rid of them completely.
Someday, the stuff we build will lead to understandings of how the vestibular system works that will lead to a whole slate of wonderful curative neurotechnologies that will be able to tackle problems that exist today in ways that no one has ever thought to tackle them before.
But right now, back to the present. Stephen loves to say that there's only 2 ways a startup can fail. They can either run out of money or they can give up. Well, we're never going to give up, so we can only fail if we run out of money.
Both Colton and I are full-time, but neither of us take a salary. So $12,000 actually goes a really long way in us building what we want to build for the world.
What we want to build, what we're going to build, is magic at an industrial scale. And we'd love your support in doing it.
Thank you very much.
So what stage is your tech at right now? I know you said that you were able to like try it, but is it, you know, manufacturable, consumer ready? When is that on the timeline?
Do you want to pull it out so they can kind of see it?
Yeah, so I'll work on pulling it out. So it's actually in my backpack right now. So it is not consumer ready, but we're hoping that it will be consumer ready, and we're planning for it to be by the end of Q2 of 2024. And so what it looks like right now, actually, Stephen, if you want to continue to explain.
Yeah. A lot of the really hard stuff of like generating the illusion is set, but we don't have a head mount. We don't have a really good electrode interface. So it's all a tangle of wires, but that is kind of the comparatively easier stuff.
Cool. And then what's your moat? What's keeping other people from doing something similar?
Well, there are a couple things. There's obviously the usual IP, but the most important thing is that we have this huge head start where no one else knows how to do this. And until our provisional patent with everything we did goes live in 14 months, they won't know how to do it. And our key cutting moat is speed. We're just a bunch of hardware and software hackers that are really bright and build with all of our time. So by the time they know how to make this, we're going to be 0 to 1 jumps ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about the total market size of video game peripherals? Like, I know that the penetration within that one game seems like a ton of revenue. If you scale that out across like all the different games that you feel this could apply to, or just generally how much gamers spend on VR headsets, racing simulator setups, like things like that. Like, what's the total market size for video game peripherals right now?
Yeah, so it's hard to pin down because the CAGR is like 30 to 40% a year on VR, for example. But right now, the annual spend on VR is about $60 billion. And we see it as the reason we don't do any top-down analysis is we kind of see it as a new market that's emerging. And we are kind of crafting a new space. There are no neurotech interfacers that are for consumers. So we like to take a bunch of the little games and show you how we can build it from the bottom up. But if we were to go top down and look at an industry like VR that really depends on something like this breaking through, we do see some $60 billion industry with 30 to 40% CAGR.
Last question would be, why not license this technology to an established peripherals company? Like, why do you guys want to go after it yourselves?
This is a really good question because we could make a lot of money if we just did that, and it'd be a lot easier. The reason is, as we build this, we're discovering a ton more things we can do with it. And it seems that what we're building is not going to be in the long term bound to gaming. So the short answer is we think we can do it better than them.
Can you tell us the story of the first time that it worked on one of you?
Yeah. So the first time it worked, and Steven tried it, it wasn't a nice system with a PCB. It was 2 9-volt batteries and some wet sponges. But it was enough to prove the concept. But I can't tell the story. I mean, I still remember the first time Steven and I pitched to an investor who we had met through a cold introduction. And just seeing like his face light up as he tried this technology, because it's not every day that you try something and you feel something completely new. So it's a wonderful experience. And if anyone has time to try it after, we'd love to demo it.
Can you talk a little bit about the IP and who's been doing it, what you have, and again, it's great what you've done, but who do you have working on the IP? Because my guess is that will be rather important.
So very early on, we were lucky enough to get a pro bono offer from a big law firm, a startup law firm called Holland and Hart. And they've been doing all of our IP. And the deal was just they do all the stuff for us for free. We basically pitched to them, and they were like, "We'll do everything for free. When you pass seed, that's when you start paying us to do all the big contracts." So they've been doing our IP stuff and been filing awesome provisional patents.
Okay, is there any, again, it's not medical, but I'm just wondering, since you're stimulating stuff, is there any FDA or any other kind of clearance you got to get, just given, you're messing with the brain?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when it comes to the FDA is a regulatory body that actually regulates advertising and the claims that you make on your technology and how that might affect people medically. So the FDA wouldn't have any regulation there because we're not making any medical claims, at least for the gaming portion of this. Medical considerations are far in the future, but we're not making any medical claims that, we're going to cure anything as you're playing video games. As far as safety regulations go, there are regulatory processes that we plan to go through to ensure that this technology is safe. There's a lot of research out there already about vestibular stimulation. In fact, there's a laboratory here at Johns Hopkins that does similar vestibular stimulation, but they do it with an implantable device. So the idea of sending electricity through your skull is actually very well studied, and it's called transcranial direct current stimulation. And it's known to be very safe at specific levels of current. And those levels we have physically limited on the device.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Stephen and Colton. And before Sean comes up with his company, Glycotan, we just have 2 more ventures this evening. So wanted to give all of you, don't go and get food, but like 15 to 30 seconds, just stretch, move around by your seat so we can keep this energy going. And I think Orbit got us all in a good high level of energy. We want to keep that going for the last 2 ventures of the evening. Yep, you're second. All right, we're going to be getting started in about 15 seconds, so please make your way back to your seat if you left. All right, so we heard from Juan about device to reduce dizziness and then something totally different. Now I'm pleased to hand it off to Sean, where he's going to go over a strategy to improve how we can all keep our teeth white and our smiles nice. So I want to hand it over to Sean.
Hi, everyone. Just by show of hands, how many of you guys drink coffee, tea, or wine here? Okay, great, like everyone. And who cares about their oral health? As everyone should. So the biggest problem about staining is that aesthetically it's not pleasing, right? And number two biggest reason, I'm actually gonna expose the dental field right now, but I bet 20 to 30% of people in this room have fillings from their dentist, and it's not from actual cavities, it's actually from stained teeth. I mean, how would you know the difference? If a dentist tells you, hey, yeah, you have a cavity, would you know if it's a stained tooth or a cavity? You wouldn't. How do I know this? Hi, my name is Sean, I'm a dentist. And I saw my bosses and my coworkers do this to my patients, and it's outrageous. Yeah, we get your insurance money, but you guys get a new filling on a perfectly healthy tooth. And the third biggest problem is that we're spending $1.4 billion every year on winding strips. They're all chemical based. Nothing's natural about them. And our indirect competitor, Crest winding strip. Over a long-term period, you're actually damaging your teeth and creating pores on your enamel, causing sensitivity. It's like bleaching your hair, right? Did your dentist talk about this with you? I hope so. So we found the culprit. What's really causing the staining in your teeth? And it's this thing called tannins, a tannic acid, a polyphenol coming from a coffee and tea plant. And this compound is the one that causes bitterness in your coffee and tea. So we thought, how do we get rid of this or eliminate this once and for all? So we found a compound called cyclodextrin. It's a naturally derived compound from starch. And this compound has a hydrophobic core and a hydrophilic outer layer, like a phospholipid bilayer. I know, Bio 101. And this is able to capture tannic acid like a host and guest complex molecule. And using cyclodextrin, the mechanism of action, it's using hydrogen bonding, van der Waals, hydrophobic interaction to capture the tannic acid. But we're not just stopping here. We're going to modify the cyclodextrin to make sure we have a size and specificity and compatibility with the tannic acid molecule. So I wanted to introduce to our biotech startup called Glyco10. Glyco coming from glycobiology. We're using a molecule of saccharides, and 10 from tannic acid, using biochemistry and innovative molecular science to make this into the market. So our product overview. Our first product that's going to be out in the market, it will be a paste product. So after you brush, you floss, and you can put this on before you go out on a day or your date or whatever it is before you drink your beverages. It's like a fluoride varnish. When you go to your dental office, you put it on for the day. And this is going to be sold over the counter at your local CVS, Walgreens, or also partnering with dental offices to bring it to the patients. And the number one thing is that we're going to put is modified cyclodextrin to make sure we capture those tannic acid molecules. Number two, in order to make that paste, the structural integrity, we're adding something called chitosan. Everything's natural. Everything's plant-based. And number three is prebiotic inulin. We're not just preventing your staining, we're also making sure your oral microbiota is strong and healthy as well. And it's also easy to apply. So it's almost like your next step in your skincare routine, right? I'm Korean, I need to have my skin perfect, but also my oral health care perfect. So a couple of milestones. So we're working on finalizing our R&D right now, making the specificity really, really good, using the patent application this month and next month. Hopefully going to clinical trials by February and March, and getting started for FDA regulatory process in late spring and early summer. The oral healthcare market is so large globally, it's reaching $100 billion by 2030. It's sitting at 50 billion right now. And Asia has around 40% of the market, North America trailing at 37%. I mean, who doesn't want to be in this market right now? We're raising pre-seed to really go into patent process and also regulatory and compliance, and also the clinical trial phases. Those are the two big categories we're working on. So I want to just introduce my team, several dentists, but also board of advisors. And we're also working with a professor in organic chemistry at Johns Hopkins to make sure the measurements are really precise. And also, I was also in a talk with a pharmaceutical company this week that they want to lend the lab for me and for this company. And I said, I'll talk to my lawyers beforehand. And we get started with that. The technology is fascinating in itself. The technology and the potential of glycogen, hopefully in the future, we can use this in any beverage you want as almost a dissolvable pill, all naturally made, plant-based, and that will send out all the cyclodextrin molecules, capturing all the tannic acid before you drink your beverage, and it will eliminate staining once and for all. And if this technology potential can go into capturing aromatic compounds, getting rid of bad breath, gum disease, and even engineering this to prevent cavity-causing bacteria. So with this technology, we can also elongate shelf life of food, all natural, and get rid of food bitterness as well. So there's a lot of potential, and we're so excited to work on this with you. It's like Moderna with mRNA platform, we're glycobiology with a saccharide platform as well. Thank you.
What precedent is there for dental products competing against the established players in the market like Crest and things like that?
So a lot of the market products right now are reactive products. So meaning you get a stain, you get whitening strips, go to your dentist and get, Crest whitening or other night guard that has whitening products. But we're the first proactive solution.
And are there any, not even necessarily in this exact space, but like, are there any brands in particular that you've found have done a really good job of competing with the big established name brand ones that are out there?
So at the moment, there's no company that's really going into natural product to make the staining beforehand. So we're actually the kind of key player using glycobiology, using oral healthcare market.
Right. Tom's Toothpaste of Maine would be the one, right, to look at that built and then got bought.
Can you repeat the question?
Tom's Toothpaste of Maine, you can look it up, was like organic, built up and then got
so
bought.
there's a lot of organic toothpaste, but they're not really targeting staining.
Right.
They're targeting fluoride.
I think he was looking for an analogy, not an exact match.
Oh, gotcha. I would say Sensodyne is a great player because it's really targeting on sensitivity or gums. Or fluoride varnish, where you have a little paste that we can go in your teeth.
Can you talk a bit about the IP? Again, I'm trying to separate out, you showed a lot of interesting things. I'm trying to understand what actually exists, what has a patent around it, and what still needs to play out.
Yes, so the molecules for cyclodextrin, it's already out there. It's actually regulated both in Europe, Japan, and Asia, and America. So it's actually safe to digest and everything. Not the ones that, only America is doing it and everywhere else is banned. So there's no a patent that's regarding this field of glycobiology using the oral healthcare market to bring this to the market and not relate to any staining, modifying the cyclodextrin. There are ways to modify the cyclodextrin part to use as a vehicle in pharmaceutical companies, but not in the oral. In some ways, yes. Some parts of cyclodextrin.
So we were just talking about how many different types of companies there are tonight. So you are kind of one of the only ones that really is going to be focused on the consumer market. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of your branding and go-to-market strategy that you're thinking to attract many people in this room who raise their hand to use the product?
So I love that question because I'm not just any founder, right? I'm a dentist and I know the market really well, where I see my patients and my friends complaining all the time about staining and what's the next best solution, Sean? And the only solution right now is winding strips, right? That's very reactive. So our really go-to-market strategy is partnering with all the dental offices that I know. I can name, I have friends who are in their 80 over nation, hundreds of dental practice that we can partner with, and go to the retail store to really brand this as an over-the-counter like Sensodyne or fluoride varnish.
And then where are you in terms of validating the technology and showing efficacy with it?
So right now we're working on the finalizing the testing method in order to make sure the complex of tannic acid and modified cyclodextrin are compatible using different technology like NMR, mass spec, with organic professors. So we're making sure that the details are there to make that efficiency almost 99%.
And then like what proof are you going off of so far that it's going to have the outcome that you're expecting it to have?
Couple of things. Number one, flavor, right? We don't want to compromise any flavors of any beverages or any of the paste. Number two, also making sure that the color changes using UV light, but also number three, using different chemical analytical techniques to make sure the complex is formed.
Do you have any initial efficacy in those 3 areas?
Unusual ones?
Initial efficacy?
Additional efficacy? Yes, I mean, the potential of this technology, you can use it for getting rid of bad breath, so you don't have to use Listerine anymore. Food shelf life, because you're able to capture some things in food that can elongate shelf life. And using all natural product, no chemical or synthetic materials.
All right, thank you so much, Sean. And last but not least, already up here eager to close us out is Tito with Owlstead.
Testing, testing. Thank you guys for hanging on this long. All right, great. Okay, so in surgery, every decision, every motion, every second can end up impacting a patient for the rest of their life. And when a patient has a bad outcome, what we have to rely on afterward to try to understand what happened is really just circumstantial evidence. We lack a firsthand glimpse into what actually transpired until now. My name is Tito Porras. I'm a Johns Hopkins neurosurgery resident, and tonight I'm going to be talking to you guys about Owlstead. This is a platform that harnesses machine learning to assess surgical footage. And in that way, we're able to actually get that firsthand glimpse into OR events. And our platform is inspired by this guy, William Halsted, who a century ago here at Johns Hopkins actually established the modern practice of surgery. And Owlstead is now defining the standard for surgical efficiency, cost efficacy, and of course, patient outcomes. Now, surgical training is really emblematic of a lot of the systemic issues within surgery. So if you're a resident, you've got a 1 in 6 chance of being discriminated against by one of your colleagues. And that doesn't even include gender bias within that statistic. And if you have a resident inside your operating room, you are going to have that case prolonged by almost as much as 50% in certain cases. And about a quarter of the variation in patient complication rates can actually be linked back to surgeon skill. And what that means is that we're not graduating consistent enough products from our surgical training programs. But there's a huge issue here as well on the monetary front. So about up to 70% of a hospital's revenue can actually come from within the operating room. And the potential cost of just 1 minute in the OR can be $38. And if you take the same surgery happening at the same hospital, the variation between different providers can vary anywhere from 1 to 3 times. So our solution is a medtech platform that optimizes surgeon skill and efficiency through precision feedback. And in this way, we can improve surgical training, we can identify and reduce variation in OR workflows, and we can also, most critically, maximize patient outcomes. So this is what Owlstead looks like. It's a surgical platform. The user can log in, they upload a video to our secure servers, AI then analyzes that video, and we feed it back to the surgeon.
So here's actually some video from our neurosurgery pilot that we're nearing completion of. And you can see that in the surgeon's right hand, we're tracking with one of our algorithms the instrument that he's using. But what's actually really cool about this video, beyond the fact that we can actually extract skill and competency, is everything else that we can see happening in the room. So we can also see the workflow processes that are happening around the surgeon. We get that context. We can understand, for example, what equipment was actually used or not used. And that's a huge deal because what we can then do is actually think about not only patient outcomes, but also cost within the operating room. And that's actually one of the holy grails of health system economics in general, is combining those two to create actual value. And here's just one more bonus. So if you look next to the surgeon's right hand, you can see a green circle. That's actually where he's looking. And you can see on the insets there that we're actually tracking the surgeon's pupil. And we're using these things to actually create cognitive models of effort so we can build that into our overall assessment of surgeon performance. And it's really those things that set us way ahead of any potential competition. Additionally, we're managing not only video data, but we're also getting into the health records so that we can build a truly holistic picture of a surgical encounter. The other thing is that we are looking at not only education, but also administrative needs. And here's why that's a big deal. So there's really two sectors that will interact with Alstead. The first being educational. So this is a group of institutions like Johns Hopkins that are price sensitive and frankly will not scale well. However, they are critical for driving the adoption of something like Alstead within the broader surgical community. And for that reason, we would heavily subsidize the platform for them. Now, on the other hand, the non-educational side of things is going to include private for-profit hospitals. And here, you can imagine that if you're a hospital administrator, loss of efficiency in the operating room is actually a multi-million-dollar problem. And so being able to get some insight into your surgeon cohort and understand where the variability exists means that you can actually end up with cost efficiency, saving significant amounts of money. The market for this is significant. So if we were to assume 100% annual license purchase from all players here, that'd be a 1.6 billion total market. However, if we're incredibly conservative and we think just 5% of our service addressable market, we're still looking at 40.1 million in annual revenue. So why should you believe that we're the ones to get this done? So I myself, I'm a neurosurgery resident, and for the last 2 years, the NIH has paid my salary to support this particular research. Dr. Masaru Ishii is an authority in surgical skills assessment backed by multiple NIH R01s. And Dr. Matthias Umberath is a computer science phenom who's already won several early career awards. Advisors to the venture include the chair of Johns Hopkins Neurosurgery, Henry Brem, serial entrepreneur and professor of neurosurgery, Nicholas Theodore, and Judy Huang, neurosurgery program director. If you don't believe me, here's some of the research that Drs. Ishii and Umberath have completed in support of this venture's technology. And where are we at? Where are we going? So we've gotten a lot of grants so far. Year one is MVP. We're refining our core team at this point, and we're making good on education contracts. That MVP is coming out in Q1 of this year. Year two is all about launch, direct sales to private hospitals at this point, piloting of new products. That way, years 3 through 5 are all about growth, an eye toward global expansion, licensing of our proprietary database, and launch of new products, our foray into augmented reality and general surgical workforce and infrastructure optimization. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So I see definitely the educational component and the strong strengths there. I'm curious if you could talk me through kind of like your stakeholder interviews with your users outside of the education market. So what are the surgeons' feelings about this when they're outside of the academic setting and, you know, trying to do their job just more efficiently and having the tracking there?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I have lived this in a lot of ways. And I have anticipated these potential questions and potential, pushback from surgeons out in the community. And so I've been interviewing a lot of people to try to get to this. I have a few things about that. So there's a really famous contemporary neurosurgeon named Robert Spetzler, who in a podcast I listened to once talked about how after every single surgery, He has an Excel database that he goes back to, and he puts everything about the experience there. And he uses that much like a professional athlete who reviews, retrospectively their performance so that the next time they do it, they can actually be that much better. That mindset is not unique to academia. That's just kind of a surgeon thing. And so surgeons I've talked to, the ability to give them something like this to actually get a play-by-play of what they do and be that much better is a big deal. A really interesting point of feedback I got from an attending, point number 6 there, was I would buy this myself, especially to go back and get feedback on procedures I only do occasionally. And I hadn't really thought about that, but it is true that there's certain things that only pop up once in a blue moon. And so being able to go back and see how you did, remember things, is a pretty big deal. The last thing I'll say is that for anybody who actually pushes back on this concept, the reality is that this is going to happen at some point. This is just the future of the operating room, whether we like it or not. And our rationale is that it's much better for this to come from surgeons than anybody else. And it's kind of unconscionable to think that you would deny the insights that you can get directly from the operating room and instead rely on just the health record to try to piece together things that happen after an encounter with a patient. I don't know how you could ever rationalize that.
Well, I think on the other side of it's kind of like using this technology as like surveillance, this technology as like when this becomes required, if this is the state. So this is kind of my question to follow up on this is like, how does this not become the police body cam of the operating room? And
Yeah.
what's going to be your counter to that perspective from the public
Oh, from the public.
in general? Like
Oh,
how
in
would
gen-
you answer the whole concept of it
Right.
being the body cam of the operating room?
Yeah. So, okay. So I guess, first of all, it depends on how you view the body cam and whether that's a negative or a positive thing. Let's go ahead and just assume it's negative in this context. So the response to that is you have to, as a surgeon, look around you and realize whether you like it or not, you're already being surveilled and followed in so many different ways. So your surgical dictations are scrutinized. The way you code is scrutinized. You can be held liable for anything that you put in the record. And you have at any point so many different people around you monitoring exactly what you do. You have litigious patients at times. And so the reality is that, yes, this concept of recording in the operating room can be a bit uncomfortable, but it's already here in a number of ways. And for surgeons who are practicing, at an ethical standard, this can actually only be a good thing.
This might be a little bit of an out there question, but how valuable is the training data that you're collecting for like eventually something like applying it to automating certain aspects of surgery? Like, is that something that you can hold on to and you find useful in the future, or is it kind of dumb for some reason?
Yeah,
I'm not thinking of?
that's a phenomenal question. So in the growth phase there, you see that I talk about licensing of the database. It's proprietary and nobody. So the literature, people have solved certain problems within this, especially from microscope or endoscope data. What you'll notice about the video I showed you guys, though, is that that's open surgery. That is an extremely difficult problem to solve. And we went after that first, and that's proof that we're doing it. So the fact that we're the ones who've arrived there first, and we're doing it with Johns Hopkins neurosurgeons, who are kind of like the MBA equivalent, that's a big deal for anybody, like a robotics company, for example, any kind of virtual reality, augmented reality platform that wants to work with us. That's a big deal. And the other thing I'll say about that is that the other half of the lab I work in is actually a surgical robotics lab. And so Dr. Umbarath and Dr. Ishii also work on that side. And so we are working with a robotics company where we're actually trying to implement certain real-time elements that lean toward exactly what you're talking about. So this is very synergistic for our whole other body of research in many ways.
Thanks.
Yes. Are you okay, we can do it. All right. Thank you all so much for voting, networking, getting your second and hopefully third plate. We are going to share a few announcements, so we'd appreciate your attention just a little while longer, y'all. We're going to be done at 9 regardless. So we're going to share a few important announcements with our students. Founders, if you can wrap up those conversations and take a seat. I'm looking at you, Mitch. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. It's okay, but please, everyone just take a seat or at least give us your attention for about another 5 to 10 minutes and we'll be done. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it. Do I have to do the kindergartner? If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna pass it to our strategic advisor, Shreen, with Fuel, and she'll tell us a little bit more about the Fuel Accelerator, which we're all here for.
All right. Thank you all for being here tonight. It was so inspiring and exhilarating to see all of the new innovation coming out of FFU and everything that all of the students are doing. Over the course of the last 10 weeks, we spent about 3 hours together every Wednesday where we went through having different speakers come in and also having a hot seat where everyone had the chance to practice their pitches as we progressed over the course of the semester. On Fridays, we had a workshop spanning from customer discovery to financial modeling to regulatory compliance. And it's been such an inspiring experience, not only watching everyone grow, but also being a strategic advisor while everyone is innovating over the course of the semester. So Fuel is really more of a product market fit kind of accelerator where we're helping the startups go to market. And Spark is what Wesley will share.
Thank you so much, Shreen. Hi, everyone. My name is Wesley Hamilton. I'm one of the strategic advisors for the Spark program and an alumni of the Spark program as well. I just want to talk to you a little bit about what the Spark program is all about. I kind of like to describe Spark as Fuel Light. We do a lot of the same things that Fuel does. The Spark participants, I think we have about 30 teams in the cohort this semester. Happens every semester virtually via Zoom. Me and some other strategic advisors, we pair together and we offer a series of mastermind sessions to our participants. And that curriculum is basically a business 101 of what MVP means, what market segmentation means, and all these kind of vocabulary words that we need to kind of have successful ventures. I'm actually a musician by trade, and I have a venture. I went through the Spark program having 0 business experience, and now I've come out having an established LLC. So I think Spark is a really great place for people with just basic ideas and basic solutions to problems. You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to kind of do it better than what people are already doing already. So we meet once a week, and our Spark Showcase is actually next week, this upcoming Monday and Tuesday. From 12 to 2 p.m. You can register that on FFU's website. It's via Zoom webinar, so please register. We'd love to see you there. And our contestants are pitching for cohort awards of $2,500 and audience choice awards of $500. And each of the cohorts, each of the teams go home with $500 in non-diluted funding. So yeah, that's what we're all about. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Shreen and Wesley. All right, and we wanted to shout out just 2 additional funding opportunities for our students. Like I say, springtime is the money time. We have the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Challenge, so be on the lookout for that. It's several different awards for students from undergrad to alumni with different award amounts, so it makes it our largest funding pool. To be very clear, you don't have to be an active accelerator participant, so this is generally no strings attached. I would definitely check out and scan the QR code to visit our website and learn a little more about the selection criteria and the quality of the venture ideas for each award. And if you have any questions, please be sure to connect with myself or anyone here at the Fast Forward U staff to learn a little bit more about your eligibility. And with that, we also have the Single Family CS Entrepreneurship Award that's more tailored to also student-run ventures, but specifically with software-enabled technology. So for those of you out there that are working on tech-enabled startups, products, or services, you definitely want to have this on your radar. Also available for early stage and later stage ventures. So again, don't need to be part of Spark or Fuel to participate and engage in that. And we're also happy to connect and share more information. And of course, there's a whole host of other things that we collaborate on, different pitch competitions across the university, and we're constantly trying to spotlight other opportunities for our student-run and community-led entrepreneurs. So if you haven't already, connect with us wherever you can, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on YouTube, and we have a podcast as well. So if you have any questions or are struggling to find these platforms, you can't miss me. I am in the pink blazer. Find me before you leave, and I'll get you set up. And with that, I know we're leading into the announcements of what y'all came here for. So what about food?
All right, if everybody could please head back to their seat. The judges are going to share some quick thoughts about each of the teams, and then we will announce our third place cohort prize, our second place audience prize, and our grand prize winner from the judges. So very excited to make this happen. And while the judges are speaking, I'm actually going to stop the screen share so we can get our checks ready.
With that would be kind of like simplify your value proposition. Sometimes I notice med tech founders, we go longer, we want to really get in and explain it, but often shorter is better. Snoring is bad. We have a way to fix that. We can make you healthier in this way. And I think just making that tighter can kind of like grab your audience and hold on to them really strongly. But again, like the progress that you all have made is really impressive, and I think you could pump that up some. So Alstead, really like your tech. Think it's really interesting and really cool. See how it fits into the modern OR. Some other feedback is your go-to-market. I really liked how you kind of split out. It wasn't just, and then we go to market. You had very clear, actionable steps, how you were going to start, how you're going to expand. One thing that's hard and you're going to need to like continuously be ready for questions about is that end user experience. So when we're not looking at trainees who want to be continuously improving, when we're thinking about, you know, other people or how could this be used poorly, like those are going to be questions you're going to get asked time and again. And another thing is don't bury the lead with the licensing opportunity. Like that data set you're creating is really cool and a really big selling point. So make sure that that comes out verbally as well. And then last team, I've got Glycogen, really cool piece of technology, a really interesting market opportunity and way to expand there. Say for you all, just make sure that you can make clear like where and how your progress is and how long it's going to take you to get through some of like your very critical next steps.
Cool. From a high level first, just really, really amazing job to everybody. I've watched a lot of these pitches over the last few years. Like the level at which they've gotten better every year has just shocked me. The level at which all of you are pitching relative to pre-seed, seed, A stage companies is it's really, really impressive. So major kudos to all of you. I'll give feedback on 3 companies. So first one, Council AI. The thing that resonated with me the most, was how bad the current status quo is today. Like, I think you did a really good job of painting that story, both like numerically with, I believe you mentioned it was like 8 hours is needed to cover that, but they can only spend 2. Like, and your personal experiences there, I think that really, really jumped out at me. It was one of the more compelling parts of your pitch. I think you had a tougher time in 2 areas, defensibility of the AI solution versus other ones, and then also like the liability. You also kind of introduced the liability thing by talking about other AI companies, and that made me think about it a lot more. Now, all of that said, if you compare that, like the liability part at least, to the status quo and say, look, like it might miss some parts of it. However, lawyers are missing 75% of it anyway, because they only have 2 hours to read 8 hours worth of material. Like, I think you could combat that a little bit more directly. Orbit. You guys did a really, really incredible job being unbelievably captivating. The energy that you both have and the excitement that you both have is like unbelievably impressive. If you looked out at the entire room, everybody was leaning forward in their chairs, just completely enthralled with what you guys were pitching. I think the single most impressive thing about you guys is the energy that you bring. I think like the only real feedback I have is I think you talked a little bit about like more of like the general health benefits as outside of just the video games. Like we're at Hopkins, I get why you talked about it a bit, but honestly, that just distracted from the rest of the pitch a little bit to me. I think that just go all in, lean in on the video games. I think that that's clearly the thing you guys are the most passionate about. And then last is Medland. So I think a couple good things. I think that you did a pretty good job on the economics, like in painting that picture pretty clearly. I think you could do that a little bit more in the slides ahead of time, like talking a little bit more directly about like the default rate and that whole like waterfall of the whole thing. But I think you clearly have like the command of that yourself. I love the personal story and your attachment to it. I think that that adds a lot. I think the one area that I had a little bit of trouble, and some of the other judges, is around just the market just being very, very congested. Like in Latin America, all of these different institutions are moving in there, and I wasn't quite sure about how you would last long term relative to all these other players entering the space. That said, like you are talking about doctors and like how they're easier to or potentially better to insure because the fall rate might be lower. Like I think you have something there. I think that could just be articulated a little bit better up front in the pitch. So.
All right, thank you all again. Can we give one last round of applause to our judges? And while I'm getting the screen all set up again, I wanted to just highlight that although there are just 3 additional winners tonight, every team that's completed and presented tonight is earning $5,000 in non-dilutive funding that they can use to invest in critical needs of their ventures. So every team is walking away with a minimum of $5,000. So they should all be proud of that and excited about what that can help them achieve going forward. But without further ado, it's my very pleasure to introduce. First, I want to do a quick drum roll for our 3rd place winner for our cohort prize. Congratulations to Aquapadas. And it was supposed something happened, but Aquapadas, please feel free to come up here and join us. So Alexander and Will, I wanted to give you a chance to share a couple words. And here you go, you can come up and you'll really proud to have worked with them. And every week, Alexander made the trip down from New Jersey to join in person. So just wanted to highlight that as well. And the cohort recognized that the hard work that they were both doing, the whole team doing throughout the semester. So I wanted to give you a chance to share a couple thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone in the cohort. This really means a lot, your support. And I think we're planning on putting this money to good use and pushing our venture forward and being able to develop our solution to start putting into real use and start benefiting cities. And I think my takeaway message would be if, as many as you can tonight, call 311 and tell the city that there's a water main break out there. Maybe it can finally be fixed. Thank you.
Honestly, I don't know how to follow up with that, but that's exactly the message we're trying to get across. I think the main thing is that it's been an absolute honor and privilege to, be learning and growing alongside this amazing cohort right here. And then also thank you to all the amazing mentors that have helped us throughout the semester and really, access our potential and to get to the next level. So thank you.
All right, it is my pleasure to introduce the audience prize, which is what you all chose after all those hours of sitting here. Hopefully our food helped tide you over for your slog, but it was so exciting. And so can you go ahead and give me a very enthusiastic drum roll for your choice, please? Without further ado, Paul, go ahead and click the button one more time. Summer, woo! Amazing.
Awesome. Well, we just wanted to thank everyone here first for coming out tonight, but specific shout out to our cohort. You guys it's been a joy getting to know every one of you. And I've just really appreciated all of the time that we've spent together investing in each other's ventures on the hot seat. Also want to say thank you to the staff, Paul, Josh, as well as all of the mentors out there. You guys have provided integral connections to all of our ventures and really helped propel us forward. So thank you for the fuel that you provide all of us. And we're just really thankful for everyone in the audience for offering this award to further our venture.
Same thing. Thank you so much.
All right, it is my honor at this time to invite Frank and Caroline up to the front of the stage. Pava's parents are going to help us introduce the final award. Can you go ahead and give them another round of applause? All right. So I'm going to give this to you. They do not know who is on the check, so this is going to be a surprise to them. But again, we're just so honored to have them here with us this evening. We just so appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and give you the mic. Do you want to say anything as you?
I guess I am.
All right.
Thank you very much for inviting us in and welcoming us so generously. We're so proud that our daughter helped get this started. I was here for her first pitch, and I was here for her judging pitches the next year. And it's just a wonderful experience. And my God, the presentations you guys came up with and gals was just amazing. Congratulations, really, really good work. Quite impressed. Thank you.
All right, without further ado, we have the proverbial sticky note there. Can I ask the two of you to unveil it? And it's Orbit! Orbit and grand prize winners! Congratulations, boys. Come on up.
I think the first and most important thing I like to say is just how awesome of a network Fuel has been. The resources that Paul, Josh, Fayez, who's our advisor, and even Joseph and Shreen, who aren't our direct advisors, but have given us so much help. I can't say it enough. It's been amazing being a part of this community.
Oh shoot, sorry, I wasn't expecting that. Colton does most of the work around Orbit, so I wasn't. Yeah, but thank you very much. I want to say thank you to the Fast Forward U people. Just very quick thing. We've been a part of a couple accelerators. We've never had anyone fight for us to use a space besides the Josh and the rest of the Fast Forward U team, and that was incredible to hear. And it actually meant so much to people running startups that people were willing to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, congratulations again to Orbit, to Aquaparas and Somnair, but really congratulations to the entire cohort. This concludes the formal pitch competition for tonight. But everyone who is in the cohort, please come up. We'd love to take a couple photos as a cohort with the giant check. But everyone else, feel free to stick around.